Hi, it's Tanya and today I'm gonna talk about translated book titles. I read a lot of books in Finnish and even though usually the book titles are pretty close to the original, sometimes they are quite different. So I decided to show you some examples today. First I want to show you something that doesn't affect only the book titles. In some books, for some reason, they change the character names. This doesn't happen too often, I only have like these two that I could find. But basically, Anne of Green Gables, they changed Anne to Anna, which is fine, it's close to the original, but it's silly because Anne is also a Finnish name, though we pronounce it as Anne. And in Romeo and Juliet, they changed Juliet to Julia. I don't know why they do this, because it's not like the original names were super hard to pronounce. There are way harder names to pronounce in these books, at least for us Finns. So, not quite sure why they do that, but it happens sometimes. Usually the book titles are pretty much the same as the original one, maybe like few differences. For example, the whole Harry Potter series, I believe, is pretty much the same in Finnish. And then there are books like Gillian Flynn's Gone Girl. In Finnish this is Kiltti tyttö, which means nice girl or maybe sweet girl. So it's really close to the original, but not exactly the same. And then there are books like these that don't have anything to do with the original title. I have two John Green books here. The first one is Looking for Alaska. The Finnish title for this is Kaikki viimeiset sanat, which means all the last words, and it makes perfect sense if you have read the story. The second one is Paper Towns, which is arvoitus nimeltä Margo. I think it was called in Finnish, which means a riddle named Margo. I'm not a huge fan of that name. I don't like character names on book titles for some reason, so I definitely prefer the original one. Then I have Me and Earl and the Dying Girl by Jessie Andrews. The Finnish title is Maailmankaikkeuden huonoin elokuva, which translates to the worst movie in the universe. I don't know which one I like more. I guess the original one describes the book better, at least in my opinion. Then there's something that I have noticed that they do sometimes with series. They keep the original title in English, like the Divergent series. The first book is called Divergent Outolintu. Outolintu basically means like the weird one or the divergent. If you want to translate it from word to word, it means the weird bird, which sounds a bit silly. Basically the whole series is just called Divergent in Finnish. The same goes with like Twilight, for example. For some reason they keep the English version of the name also, but they don't do that with every series. For example, I'm currently reading The Hunger Games and it's just called Nälkäpeli, which means Hunger Games. So I'm not sure why they do it with some books. Then there's the Millennium Trilogy by Stieg Larsson, which I love. In this case, English is the weird one. For example, the first book. In Swedish it's called Män som hatar kvinnor. I'm sorry for my rusty Swedish. In Finnish it's called Miehet jotka vihaavat naisia. I think the English title is The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, which fits because the girl has a dragon tattoo in this series. But the original one and the Finnish one translate to Men Who Hate Women. The second book is actually called the same in English as it is in Swedish and Finnish. Let's see if I can read the original title. It's called Flickan som lekte med elden, and in Finnish it's called Tyttö joka leikki tulella, so it translates to The Girl Who Played with Fire, which I believe is the English title. Also the last book in the trilogy has a different name in English. I'm so gonna butcher the Swedish name, but originally it was called something like Luftslottet som sprängdes. In Finnish it's Pilvilinna joka romahti. I believe the English title is The Girl Who Kicked the Hornet's Nest or something like that. But the Swedish and Finnish titles translate to The Castle in the Clouds That Collapsed or something along those lines. So as you can see, Finns are not the only ones who change the titles sometimes. I almost forgot one series. This is something that I passionately hate. The Finnish title is so bad. Pretty Little Liars by Sarah Shepard. In Finnish, the series is called Valehtelevat viettelijät, which means the lying seducers. That's such a horrible name, especially for a young adult series. That's like, no. When it was on TV, I never wanted to watch it because I thought it was like a series about girls seducing guys and being bitches. So that's one title that I passionately hate. I'm gonna end this video with some classics. First I have Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte. In Finnish this is called Kotiopettajattaren romaani. That translates to the novel of a governess, which is really fitting because Jane Eyre was a governess at some point. I don't know which I like more because they're really basic, both of them. Then there's The Great Gatsby. In Finnish this is called Kultahattu, and this is a title that I don't understand. Kultahattu means the golden hat, and I don't think anyone is wearing a golden hat in this book. I don't know if that's a reference to the saying that someone is born with a silver spoon in their mouth. I think that's how you say it in English, because in Finnish it's golden spoon in their mouth, or in their ass, like a lot of people say. So I don't know if that's like something to do with that. I don't get it. Then there's Persuasion by Jane Austen. The Finnish title is Viisasteleva sydän, and I wasn't sure how to translate this. Basically, viisasteleva means like being a smart ass, so the title would be something like Smart Ass Heart. That sounds really stupid, but also really silly in English. The last one is The Master and Margarita. My Russian is a bit rusty, so I think the original title is Master i Margarita, something like that. I'm not sure. But this is one of my favorite translations because in Finnish this is Saatana saapuu Moskovaan, which translates to Satan arrives in Moscow. I really like the Finnish title, and it was the reason why I wanted to read the book in the first place. The original title and the English title are like quite boring. I would have never picked up the book if it wasn't for the Finnish title. Here were all the books I'm gonna talk about today. I'm sure there are a shit ton of books that have weird translations, so maybe I'll do another part of this video once I have read more books, because most of these books are things that I have actually read myself. I hope this was a fun video for you and you learned something new. I hope to see you next time. Moi moi!